our thoughts on Lance against the Seahawks. And keep in mind, Jack and I haven't gotten the coach's film yet. We'll have a more informed take later on this week, but we also were right there in the press box. Jack, what did you think?
I thought it looked a lot like what we saw of him in the preseason. It seemed very similar, struggle early on against when Seattle was really getting after him with different looks in the secondary, and then when the game was no longer in doubt and they kind of just sat back in a zone, whether it was 3 or 2, he was able to make some plays and he did a good job. Overall, I would say that it was a decent outing for a guy making his first game in a lot, of extended playing time in a regular season game. I'm not as excited maybe as some other folks just because I didn't see it when the game was still in doubt.
Here's where I think he showed improvement from preseason. Using his athleticism, like not getting sacked 4 times. When he kept getting sacked in the first preseason game, I forget who was it against, Kansas City, I kept being like, what are you doing? I understand if Nick Mullins and CJ Beathard and Jimmy Garoppolo stand there and go down, but not you, dude. You gotta get the hell out of there. And at least as the game went on, he kept saying, oh, there's an opening, I can go there. So that was nice. But as far as like quarterback polish, and look, he's a hard worker. So I'm not saying that he's dogging it and he's doing what they're putting in front of him. What the hell are they doing with him? What the hell have they been doing with Trey Lance the last 6 months? Because what it looked like on the field was, nothing really. He's the backup quarterback, and we'll get to him down the line. But for right now, it looks like they haven't really, not one thing has he improved on since he came to this team. Is I guess what I'm saying.
No, and you're right. He looks like the guy that we saw on film that we broke down. I know we did a couple of breakdowns on him, and I did a whole bunch of them.
Ago.
Right, and he looked like that same guy. I mean, yeah. And I understand. One of the knocks on this game was, I think you mentioned it. He's a rookie. He's coming into this game. The game plan's not set up for him, and what have you.
He didn't even know he was coming in until like the end of halftime, which is weird too. Yeah,
sure. But then so it's fine. The first series they just hand off the ball, but then the first play is a first play looks like his college tape. It's play action rolling out to his right, and he has George Kittle open in the flat, and he throws it at his feet and behind him. That's Kyle Shanahan can't make it any easier for the poor kid on that one, and we saw that on his tape from North Dakota State. And the good thing about it, he has those plays, but he also has some of the more polished plays. Like, I wouldn't say polished plays, but the more exciting plays where you're talking about, where he's using his legs, and you have to give him credit for that. He definitely did a good job of avoiding the rush and moving around. And we'll have a better look at that when we look at the coach's film as to if that was all necessary.
There's also more I want to say. I'm encouraged by what he showed because I love his athleticism, and I wouldn't minimize it. It's a big asset at that position. It's everything I think it is. I know he's not probably a 4.4 runner, but he really can break tackles. He can avoid sacks. I think he's a good fit for this offensive line because pass protection isn't their thing. What else did I want? I felt like he had a positive. Here's what I want to say. I know he fell behind partially when he went down by 2 scores because of Trenton Cannon. That really hurt, although he did get that touchdown right back with the touchdown throw to Deebo Samuel. But I thought that the defense played him differently. And the way I look at it is like they average more yards per play with him on the field and more yards per carry. Let's just look at the running game. Let's just look at because the throw down to Deebo kind of skewed the numbers. But the running game in and of itself, 5.1 yards per carry with Lance on the field, 4.7 with Jimmy. It seems like Lance almost functions as another blocker because when he's under center, the defense is worried about him booting out. And when he's in the gun, the defense is worried about him keeping it and running. It seems like that's just a nice effect that he has against defenses, and that only helps your offense, even though he's the rawest quarterback in the league right now.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it works when they're going against a team that's prepared for them a little bit. If he is and we'll get into this with the next question, if he is indeed going to be the one that plays next week against Arizona or what have you, the preparation that they're able to put into him, if that's going to help them on the running side, because the 49ers ran the ball really good on Sunday, even before. But you're right, he definitely, there was one really nice run there by Sermon early on in the time that he's in there. When you watch it even on the TV clip of the game, you can see that one of the linebackers have his eyes on Lance, step to his left, and that allows Sermon to gain a couple more yards.
I think what we're going to see, this is theoretical, but theoretically, what we should see with Lance in the game, even inexperienced Lance, is what I would call a softer box. Partially because he can throw deep and they're going to take those shots, but also because, again, on the stretch zone stuff, you don't block the backside defensive end. And if it's Garoppolo, I think you're less concerned about that boot back to your side than if it's Lance. So that'll create a softer box on those plays. And then in the zone, on the shotgun running game, that's pretty self-explanatory how he can open up space on that stuff. I think theoretically that should help the running game, which will help a lot.
Yeah, and I'm with you. In theory, that's the case, and that was part of the. I said that before the season, and we didn't see that early on in the first couple of games, but we'll see how it progresses now when he's in the game in a regular setting. You know, when they're just throwing him out there on the field for 1 and 2 plays, you don't get the whole experience of what you're talking about as far as being able to really stretch the defense, because they're going to have to. They're mostly just zoning in on him in those situations in his running. So this might help that out a little bit, if that's the case.
Final thing, and then we'll move on. I think what we'll see is just the way defenses react differently to the two quarterbacks. They're going to rush him differently than they rush Garoppolo, because as you saw, as the game went on, he kept breaking out of the pocket. And that's when he's going to have his biggest plays. So I think what you're going to see is defenses slow down their pass rush and make it more of once they get burned by a couple first downs of him running, they'll say, whoa. We're going to keep you in the pocket. We're not going to blitz you. We're going to make you go 1 to 2 to 3 and show that you can go through coverages and from the pocket. And at least he'll have a slowed down pass. That's theoretically. That's what happened with Lamar Jackson in Baltimore. They're like, whoa, we don't need to rush this guy. We need to keep him right here and not let him escape. I could help him. I'm just saying, this is all theoretical.
No, yeah, totally. But and the only thing I'll say on the other side of that, and I do agree with some of what you're saying, that could be, in theory, that could be what happens. Was it's similar to, say that, I know you're using Lamar Jackson. Let's use Russell Wilson.
Okay,
he's same kind of, because I think he's a little bit more like Russell Wilson. He's going to bounce around in the pocket and move, and that's part of what Wilson does. And the whole deal with Wilson, you can get after him fast as long as your guys stay where they're supposed to stay.
Yes.
And we saw that on Sunday. Yeah. They did a much better job of rushing in their lanes and sticking to them. And so it'll be interesting to see. I think it's a really good starting point going up against Arizona if he does start on Sunday, because that's a really good defensive line that theoretically can show us right off the bat if that's going to be the case or not.